And here I go. I don't know if I want to say what I'm going to say, but I'm going to say what I'm going to say. Welcome to True Girl Live, Wednesdays in the Word, every Wednesday at noon. We just kind of pause and digest a little scriptural snack because our mission here at True Girl is to remind you and your daughters that if you abide in His Word, God's Word, you will know the truth and the truth will set you free. And what better way to remind you than to just do it? I had something really cool planned for this week, something about a sheep with too much wool and some cute pictures of a sheep with too much wool, but then the Super Bowl halftime show happened and the State of the Union address happened and all the conversation on social media about it happened. And so this morning, God kind of turned my heart to open to some different Bible verses. And as I'm starting this now, I'm almost already regretting it. But I'm going to say it anyway and tell you that I have the right to pull this from Facebook in the very near future if I'd like to do so. This morning I started reading a book I'm really excited about, No Greater Love, Experiencing the Heart of Jesus Through the Gospel of John by A.W. Tozer. I have long been a Tozer fan, and I've read everything that he's ever written, but not this book. Why? Because this is a never before published set of sermons based on the book of John, and he takes us through all the different kinds of love that Christ has for us. And I didn't get very far today. I recommend this book to you even though I've never read it. That's how much I trust A.W. Tozer. If there's anything heretical in it, just know I haven't read it. But I trust him greatly. And if you haven't discovered him, you need to, because he says things simply but clearly and with a lot of power and authority. In the introduction, he says this simple sentence that reminded me of our core verse, John 8:31 and 32. It does no good to know the truth unless you also have experienced the truth. It does no good to know the truth unless you also have experienced the truth. You know, truth is not a fact. Truth is not a law or a rule. Truth is a person. And when we know the person of Jesus Christ, then we experience freedom. And the reason I want to talk about the Super Bowl halftime show and the State of the Union address is because I think I'm more concerned about the response of Christians in the public forum than I am what I saw in either of those forums. You know what we saw at the Super Bowl during halftime? We saw the lost acting like the lost. And if you watched all of it or you chose not to watch it, do you have the right to be discerning and to judge what you saw? Yes, absolutely. The Bible tells us that we should judge everything, not everybody, but everything. We should judge actions. We should judge activities, entertainment. We should judge philosophies. We should judge those things. But we shouldn't judge people, especially when they're lost, because they're acting like they're lost. And I think that what is most grievous to God about the Super Bowl halftime show is not what J-Lo wore, but what we wore on social media. Because I think that our quick-witted comeback lines and the fact that so many of these statements on Twitter and Facebook have been so carefully thought out that they're witty and creative, they're just weapons. And as far as I know, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, I have never seen somebody change their political opinion or moral habits, and I've certainly never seen someone come to Christ through one of those social media posts. I do frequently counsel with people who've been pushed away from Christ through those things. And so, as we've been fielding some calls and emails and on my social media feed, questions from moms about what are we going to do at True Girl about the Super Bowl halftime show, publicly, nothing. Do I think it was a good thing for a Christian to participate in, including being on the stage or watching? No, but that's a conversation for my family. And right now I'm considering you my family. I'm expecting that I'm talking to my Christian sisters right now. And maybe you're someone who's looking in who's not one of my Christian sisters and you don't claim to know Jesus. I'm sorry for the way that you've seen us behave. And I saw a lot of it last night after the State of the Union address. In fact, I have opinions about the Super Bowl and I have opinions about the State of the Union address. You will not see me give them clearly on social media anywhere. You might hear me talk with my office staff about it. You might hear me talk with my family about it. You might hear me talk with my church about it. But you're not going to see me rip off hateful judgment on social media about it. And I'll tell you why. And I've thought through this carefully through the years. True Girl is about 18 years old, and there are often situations like the Super Bowl or retailers coming out with clothing that's inappropriate for children, and the Christian response is generally boycotting. We made a policy about the year 2005 that if we do anything public, it will be to support good decisions. So, for example, in 2008, I think it was, we shopped till we dropped, and we voted for 3 retailers who provided the most age-appropriate clothing for 8 to 12-year-old girls. And for one whole weekend, we just shopped there and told them thank you. And do you know what? One of the retailers that we voted to say thank you to was Gap Kids. And their headquarters called us and said thank you. And I was able to have a conversation with them about that. You know, we're Christians, and that's why we think it's really important to conduct ourselves with such care that people see what's inside of us and what's outside of us is not distracting. And they were like, wow, I've never heard it talked about like that. I've always heard the rules about how Christians dress like be really prudy and hateful. And I want to be known for that. I want to be known for dignity and decorum and self-control. But on top of all of that, I want to be known for love, not for what I'm seeing on social media. So here's a couple of verses that I want you to digest. Proverbs 26:4. Don't answer the foolish arguments of fools, or you will become as foolish as they are. I think that applies. If you think what you saw either in the State of the Union address from either party or on social media from either party or at Super Bowl halftime or on social media from your friends about Super Bowl halftime, I think this verse applies. Don't answer the foolish arguments of fools, or you will become as foolish as they are. And that's kind of how I look at some of the conversations that I see happening on social media about these things. And let me be clear, this is really going to step on some toes. What breaks my heart the most is when I see Christians doing this in the name of defending theology against one another. And I think, oh, wow, you're so hung up on that this person believes that thing, but you forgot that in the book of Matthew, we're given instructions on how we're supposed to confront our brothers and sisters that we disagree with. And what we're supposed to do is go have coffee with them and talk to them face to face, not publicly sabotage them. That's not what the word says. So when I see you doing that and you're so defending the word but you're not living it out, I put you in my discernment column. Another verse, Proverbs 29:11. A fool gives vent to his spirit, but a wise man quietly holds it back. There are some strong opinions I have and some good reasons why I have those opinions. But I want to be a wise woman, so I'm going to quietly hold that back. Of course, you might say, I'm not doing that right now. Well, I am, because I'm not telling you all my thoughts about the Super Bowl or the State of the Union address. I'm telling you I'm concerned about how we communicate those things. Here's what it says in Romans 12:18 about Nancy Pelosi and Donald Trump and J-Lo and the NFL. It says, if possible, so far as it depends on you, live peaceably with all. I think that certainly applies to our election year. That doesn't mean, again, that we don't have opinions, that we don't have morally grounded, biblically rooted thoughts about politics and entertainment, it means that we communicate those opinions and thoughts in such a way that we can maintain peace with all. I don't see that happening in our social media posts right now. In Galatians 6, 1-5, brothers, if anyone is caught in a transgression, this of course is speaking about believers inside the church, okay? So it's not talking about the lost, acting like the lost. If anyone is caught in any transgression, you who are spiritual should restore him in a spirit of gentleness. Keep watch on yourself, lest you too become tempted. Let's go back to Christians correcting Christians on social media. Is it done in a spirit of gentleness? Are you watching your own heart? And you might say, well, Dana, this is not what I come to True Girl for. Well, no, it's not. You come to True Girl to get encouragement and advice on how to connect to your daughter. We want to be your toolbox in connecting to your daughter through our Bible studies, our online Bible studies, our live events, our resources, most of them mother-daughter connecting resources. We want to put you in the driver's seat of conversations with your daughter. And this week, as you've been asking about how to talk with her about the Super Bowl, I want to say two things about that. One is she's watching you. And so much of what you teach your daughter is better caught than taught. And you can tell your daughter till you are blue in the face, standing on your head for hours on end, that kindness counts. But if you do not demonstrate that in the way that you communicate about these hot topics, she's going to catch that. And along those same lines, how can you talk to your daughter about the Super Bowl halftime show and the stuff going on in politics right now? Maybe the most important lesson is not going to be what should or should not be worn on a stage that is absolutely not claiming to be a Christian forum. Maybe the conversation should be focused on what we should be wearing on our hearts when we have discernment, judgment, and opinions about those things. Because as far as I know, all the times in Scripture when God says, put on peace, put on love, like put on truth, right? We're told that over and over. We're supposed to put these inner garments on like we put on our clothes in the morning. Put them on, choose to put it on. I don't think we're told to take them off when we're judging and discerning. I haven't found that verse. And I think there's a far more important lesson. Listen to me. I'm not saying there isn't a lesson for your daughter in how to dress and display herself in public, but I just don't think that, how does it even translate? She's not going to do a Super Bowl halftime show anytime soon, okay? So how does it translate? What can translate is how we discuss those things behind closed doors as a family. When we're doing it publicly, we're doing it with such gentleness that we're maintaining peace. And we're proving one thing when we do it gently, is that loving the lost is far more important than telling them what is wrong in their life. Because let me go back to what started all this. Thank you, A.W. Tozer. I want to read it exactly as he said it. It does no good to know the truth unless you also have experienced the truth. So when you post your truth on social media and the experience that unbelievers have with it is hurtful, that is what they know of our Jesus. Would it be better to invite a friend to coffee and say, hey, I noticed what you posted on social media and it got me a little crazy. I wonder if we could talk about that because I have opinions on it too. And they were able to see your face and you were able to temper what you said, and it wasn't quick-witted and it wasn't a weapon, but it was really just dialoguing. Could they possibly feel the love of Jesus in something like that? I think yes. So I'm not saying you can't talk about it. I'm saying be careful and teach your daughters that too. There's a couple of ways that you can connect with us right now. I always like to remind you of this. One that's very appropriate right now. every week I like to tell you to download your Revive Our Hearts app and listen to Nancy teaching, and sometimes I'm talking or interviewing with someone on the Revive Our Hearts program. You can also listen to that on your local radio stations if you have Revive Our Hearts in your area. But just a few weeks ago, Nancy finished a teaching on Abigail, and it's about how to live with the fools in our lives. And I think this applies to the subject at hand today. It's a really good subject, or it's a really good series. Abigail lives with a husband who's a complete fool and has a lot of political thoughts. And though Nancy doesn't politicize the message and she doesn't go that way with it, I think it really applies to our election year. So if you could listen to it through that lens, I think it'll help give you some practical advice on how to respond to things happening in our culture right now. Again, that series on the Revive Our Hearts app is Abigail. And then I want to encourage you to get your girl out to a True Girl Live event, because all of this comes back to that Bible verse, you'll know the truth and the truth will set you free. And right now we're teaching your daughter at the True Girl Pajama Party Tour a 3-step process to identify lies in her life, go to God's Word so that she can figure out what is the truth I need to replace that lie with so that she can live in freedom. And we would love for your daughter to have, I think this is a tool she's going to need her whole life long. I think it's a tool that every mom needs. So get to a True Girl event, go to mytruegirl.com/events to find out where we're going to be this spring. We have another 25 or 30 cities coming up, so hope to see you at one of them.